Faces. Thank you, Gerald and Carrie, for having me. Today is your inaugural event as you build a community of diverse business owners coming together with a common purpose of supporting each other and helping each other thrive. And so first, I just want to say congratulations. Congratulations on breaking the mold and becoming business owners in a society that has a history of inequality and exclusion towards women and people of color. So I just want to take you back into time a little bit. Sorry, my slides aren't coming out very well. And I just want you to remember how we got to where we are today in the hopes that it can help shape and inform the future of this diverse business resource group. The civil rights era of the 60s and 70s were definitely a huge milestone in our history. And I want to highlight 3 points during that period that are relevant to the conversations that you're going to have today to frame the subjects. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was definitely, again, a huge cornerstone in our history. And as I was doing some research to help prepare me for this conversation, I found that in 1969, President Nixon signed the Executive Order 11458, which was a national program for minority business enterprises. And this developed and coordinated a national program for MBEs to assist them in overcoming social and economic disadvantages by providing them with support, resources, advocacy, and research. And in 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed. And this made lending discrimination illegal, prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race, religion, national origin, sex or gender, and age, and marital status. And here we are in 2022, still working to uplift minority business enterprises and women-owned businesses. So women and people of color have only had equal access to mortgages, credit cards, loans, and the wealth that these financial instruments provide for less than 50 years. So basically our mothers and our grandmothers were unable to have their own bank accounts, acquire their own credit, and make large purchases without having to co-sign with their father or their brother or their husband. And so when you think about the structures and structures that were in place then, and the systems and structures that are still in place now, women and people of color still face inequities and inequalities. There is an activist, Dr. Jones, that says, and I'm going to paraphrase, inequality saps the strength of the entire society because it doesn't allow individuals and communities to reach their fullest potential and contribute fully to society. And that's why we must organize and strategize to act. And that's because these systems and structures were not made for us. So it's so important to build coalitions like this one, this diverse business resource group, so that you can, as a community, continue to work towards diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so some of you might ask, what is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? It's a buzzword now. I'm just going to provide a couple of definitions so that we have a common understanding of these terms. First of all, diversity is just numbers. I went on Google and I Googled the diversity population of the city of Brentwood. And you are all at 50% white, 24% Hispanic or Latinx, 11% Asian, 9% Black or African American, and less than 1% Native American or Indigenous. When we say the word equity, that means when when two or more groups have parity or are on equal standing. That's equity. And inclusion is when members of a group can show up as their full selves and are invited to fully participate and engage. Verna Myers said it quite eloquently and simply. Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. And we won't go into what equity is in that analogy, because that's for another conversation. So I just want to pause here and ask the group a question, and if you feel comfortable, please raise your hands. So the question is, has anyone in this room, has anyone ever been in a room where you were the only woman in the room, the only Black or African American person in the room, the only Hispanic or Latinx person in the room, the only queer, the only Filipina, right? Think about that moment and how it felt. So this diverse business resource group, and thank you for being vulnerable and raising your hands. This diverse business resource group will create this safe space where you don't have to feel like the only, even if you are, because you'll be able to connect with each other from a place of understanding and vulnerability. And in that space, you'll build these relationships, you'll build these networks, and you'll build your businesses. But what's most important, as Gerald alluded to earlier, what's most important about this group is that you uplift and advocate for others in this community. You know, I've been at UCSF doing supplier diversity work for about 2 years now. I got a new job, but I was at UCSF real estate.
Every other day.
And my most favorite part of the supplier diversity work was the advocacy. I would come into these communities just like yours, and they just fought for each other. And they fought with me. There was a woman, and I won't name any names, but she'd spew off these emails and tell us what we were doing wrong. But she kept us accountable to our goals. And our goals were to increase our spend and increase the number of contracts that we gave to small, local, minority businesses, Black and brown businesses like our own. But we didn't know where to find those businesses. So we came to communities like this one, this diverse business resource group. We went to the African American Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco and Oakland, SF Black and Latino Builders Association, Built Out California, and we said, help us find these businesses. I just remember these two success stories that we had. We had two women-owned businesses because of the work that I was doing there that were able to get multi-year 6 to 7 figure contracts because they were involved in groups like these. So being involved is key to building your business. We don't know what the future is going to bring with more COVID or recessions on its way, the natural disasters coming down. But in these groups, you'll be able to get through those challenges together and help each other reach your fullest potential, succeed and thrive. So my call to action for all of you is to be involved and engaged in this group and to connect with each other as you build your business, uplift, and advocate for others. There are laws and propositions in place now that are creating barriers and that are taking away from all the work that we did, our ancestors did 50, 60 years ago. And so I'm hoping that you do your research, go out there, look up the propositions, fight for each other, fight for your small businesses so that you can succeed. Because when you uplift others, you uplift an entire community of people. And I want to applaud Gerald and Carrie for leading the vision and the charge for this diverse business resource group. I can't wait to hear about all the successes you bring, because really there is no limit to what you can do together as a community. So thank you.